Hi, hi, hi. What's cooking? Video three today. The quote here is more personal. I think it's story time again. So once I realized I wasn't having fun, I saw my mind shift to a new realm and I sought fun in it. And I think maybe that's just like my transition from not making a decision to having to make one. Uh, s- what could have possibly made me think of something like this? I don't know. Okay, so have you ever do people really like notice the conversations they're having in their head with themselves? I don't know. For me, I tend to kind of like, I always tend to realize when I'm completely like immersed in a full blown, like maybe lecture or something. And I feel that's partially because I never really like treated myself a certain kind of way or thought I was deserving. Let's just say when you're very much egocentric, then your approach to life, when you're very much egotistical. What is egotistical? Egotistical means, one second, an egotist is is a person who is preoccupied with his own self-importance, right? So when I was egotistical, I thought, or I just like looked at the world in a very much I'm not deserving kind of way. And so it begins one of those like I'm gonna do what I want and not give a fuck. And the people that normally say that stuff are kind of like the damaged ones, are the ones that are hurt, that are frustrated, that are not able to express themselves, that find them a way, that find themselves one way or another stuck in something. And this basically, once I realized I wasn't having fun, I saw my mind shift. And it probably happened in a conversation as well. Because I remember that day, like I moved all my stuff to the house. And once I actually finally made the move, I've been talking about moving to the beach area. I was talking about it for like 2, 3 years. I was like, maybe I should move there. I should go there. I should do it. All that stuff. The day I moved was the day I was like, okay, now that I moved here, I don't care, give a fuck anymore. Let's make a difference. And it really like took a lot of guts and slowly for me to make that move. But if I look at it in any way, if I hadn't taken all that time to make that move, I wouldn't have hyped it up enough for me to look there and be like, now that I'm here, it's just the beach like always. So me coming to the beach was not me coming to the beach, was me leaving the city and me trying to escape and all that good stuff. So what that was the pattern that struck in my head. And then suddenly the beach that was so beautiful and fun because I used to come every weekend and I used to like not be in the city every weekend and be at the beach and like walk around and just like talk to the fishermen, swim a bit, play with my dog. It just wasn't the same anymore. And once that came to me and that realization kind of like blew in my head, my mind instantly was like, all right, so now it's done. It's not fun anymore. And it shifted to a completely different what could be fun after this. And so this probably train of thought came to me when I was this seems to have come to me last week or the week before. So it's probably an approach for my frustrations because I was trying to do something and realizing that I'm not really having fun doing it kind of brought back the trauma or the anxiety or the triggers that basically made me shift my entire like life's trajectory. It's fun because like now instead of actually having to wait a couple of extra years before I get this again and shift my entire life's trajectory, I am able to kind of like tweak the smaller parts that are happening right now or that I have actual control over. Who the fuck wants to go through a cycle of anxiety and then again come out of the like crap or ashes or whatever, or the clutter that happens? Because we have to understand that anytime we're making a shift in our life, what we're effectively doing is sorting out all the things that we never bothered with before this change. And so the mental clutter becomes like overbearing. Like, the faster you want to move, the the more clutter you get, the more things kind of like the faster they get. There's no step by step approach to kind of like sifting everything. But yeah, in a way, uh, that's kind of like me a certain motivation because this one thing that I used to love back when I was in Africa was the true thing that made me actually want to leave, which is nature. And once I moved close enough to nature, it instantly became redundant. It instantly was like you have literally gained your experience and gained anything you would have gained from this place a long time ago. That was literally what my head was telling me. And it's funny because like that's where you kind of have many awakenings because you look and you go like, okay, so why am I still doing this after this long time? Why wouldn't didn't I think of something different? Why didn't I want to do something different? Why didn't a different kind of like idea come to me, or what the fuck has been going on? You feel absent. You feel kind of like, I don't know, when you're having fun, you're kind of like enamored. But sometimes like fun becomes forced. And being able to handle the shift on your own or shifting by yourself is actually something that's a lot stronger than just allowing your mind to make that decision for you. So I think it makes sense for us to kind of like, in the same way we have locks on the doors and we have windows that we can open and close. I really think there are some triggers in our life that are needed to be left free. These small kind of like, I don't want to say insignificant, but they're the ones that kind of like trigger us at the moment. So it'll be easier for us to kind of like know how to handle our emotions towards them instead of just finding a way to not deal with them or just handle the triggers themselves. Because, so, okay, so like this became like a completely different concept, but I'm loving this. A trigger in your life is either going to be dealt with, as in I'm going to get over it, or it's going to be basically brushed to the side and neglected. If it's neglected, your emotions are going to pile up and eventually they're going to explode. So that doesn't help you, but that is the actual interaction you will have with the trigger that will allow the explosion after a couple of years and a flush of thoughts, anxiety, and a desperate necessity for change. That's what happens if you neglect the trigger. But if you don't neglect it, then basically you have to learn how to handle the emotions that come afterwards. But I think that's a decent skill to learn because I don't want to deal with the trigger. Some triggers you don't you want to deal with them. Like fuck this shit. I don't want to get upset every time something like this happens. But other triggers are kind of like necessary. Like they become like guiding light. You kind of want to feel cold so you can put on a jacket, or else you're gonna walk sick all the fucking time, right? You're gonna want to feel icky anytime you're doing something that's not correct, or else you're gonna do it for a long time and eventually it's gonna close. It's gonna blow in your head. You're going to want these mini triggers around you. And a good way to gauge them is probably like, okay, I'm having fun, and then a trigger. Where did it come from? Am I still having fun? Okay, then maybe I can actually deal with this trigger. Or maybe what I'm having fun in is not something that's going anywhere fast, which means, like, if I don't listen to this trigger now, I'm going to have to listen to it later. So might as well listen to it now and see how can I continue having fun without having to like shift and kind of like deal with more stuff in the future. It's a good way to consider how we actually engage with the world, I guess. Like I've done a lot of videos on triggers, but I never associated them with having fun. And I never split them in a way where you either deal with the trigger or you look put it to the side. It really did happen, by the way. Like once I looked at everything, I was like, it's not, I'm not having fun anymore. The minute my mind made that statement, the entire world changed. Everything started shifting and relocating and restructuring. It was such a good feeling, but also such like it was the first 3 hours of that realization was beautiful. But then everything started flooding in, the clutter of thoughts and all these things. It's just like it would have been a lot more fun if I had realized that I wasn't actually like I wasn't healthily approaching what I was do what I was approaching a while before I actually like realized that. It's funny how things slip from your reality without you noticing them, and mainly because you kind of like reject them. So your mind tries to protect you, and what it does is kind of like hiding something or kind of like labeling it differently than the truth that it is never allows you to kind of like go anywhere further than where it is. That's where you're stuck until you accept it or until you see it for what it is. Miyamoto Musashi, by the way. It's a video.